Hello, I am Phoenix Nightingale, and this is Skeptic's Forge. Today I'm actually going to start my review of A Skeptic's Search for God by Ralph Muncaster. Now, first thing on this is that this is basically what got me started on wanting to do this in the first place. My, uh, it was Christmas time, my family asked for a wish list. My wish list at the time was for books by the Four Horsemen of Atheists, which are Richard Dawkins, uh, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and Daniel Dennett. Now, each one of those has a PhD in various degrees, three of which are Ivy League professors. So they not only are they well-known atheist activists, they're also well-established um, PhD holders in their respective fields, which would be philosophy, focusing on cognitive sciences for Daniel Dennett. Sam Harris is a neurologist, a neuroscientist. You have um, Richard Dawkins is a well-known evolutionary biologist, and Christopher Hitchens, sadly, he's no longer with us, having died of cancer a few years ago. He was a well-respected journalist, graduate of Oxford. So I asked for books from these authors, in addition to the unholy trinity, which is uh, these people I actually know. Unfortunately, um, the one I know best is Matt Dillahunty. He has not released a book yet, but when he does, I'm very much looking forward to it. You have Seth Andrews, host of the Thinking Atheist podcast, and he's written several books. And then Aaron Raw, who has written at least one book that I know of. And he, having his own YouTube channel, he does very well with explaining away the problems with creationists thinking on trying to debunk evolution and young Earth creationism. His, I don't know if he's still doing it, but it was his day job to work on the uh, oh, well, how did he phrase that? It was basically an entire computer. It was a computer model that scientists from around the world could link up to and put their research into, so that they could all see the phylogenetic tree with everybody's research input into it. And so, if any changes needed to be made, you could just go and click, drag, and all subsequent evolutionary parts on that tree would also move with the thing that you shifted over, much like a um, any folder in a computer file system. Um, Matt Dillahunty, you'll probably recognize from the Atheist Experience and several other um, several other atheist community of Austin productions, which is how I got into YouTube in the first place, as I am also a host on Atheist Vanguard and now Nonprofits, though I appear sporadically. I'm not a regular host. I just can't devote that kind of time to it. But these are people that I asked for books from. Uh, it was basically, that was also my announcement to my family that I was an atheist. I was putting out this wish list. Um, I didn't really view it as a big secret. I just never see most of my family, never have a chance to talk to them. And putting this out, well, it was honest. It's what I wanted. But my cousin's reaction to this was, instead of going, "Oh, you're an atheist," here, let me just grab any random thing um, that from one of these authors and give that to you. because I don't want to even look at it. Nope, she doesn't do that. No, she goes, "Oh, he's an atheist. I need to fix that. So here's this book that is an apologetics thing. It really helped me sink in with my own beliefs. So I'm going to go ahead and give that to him because that should change his mind and probably convert him back to Christianity, bring him back to God." No, that is a slap to the face. What I did was a shock. What she did was a slap to the face. Because for her to give me this book instead is to say, "You're wrong and you need to fix that." And I'm just going, at first, it was like, that's one of the most offensive things you could possibly do. It is pretty much the equivalent of a literal slap to the face. But then I started looking at it. I just did a quick browse through, and both me and my girlfriend ended up laughing our asses off at it. It's like, oh my gosh, they're using that argument. It took me a little while that I started reading through it, and it's really, it's a mess. And I'll explain things as I go along with this. I am going to reread this book just for you guys, and tell you what I think of it as I go on. To start with, I'm confident in actually just reading off the cover, the back cover, the quotes on the inside of the page of the people that are praising it, and the table of contents. That's as far as I'm going to go today. And I can read directly off of that and give my commentary as I go. Beyond that, however, to avoid copyright issues, I'm going to be paraphrasing the actual content of the book itself. So bear with me with that. So let's go ahead and start off here. First thing you notice, big letters, skeptic search for God. A skeptic searching for God. Typically, when you're searching for something, you're expecting to find it. So if you're somebody who does not believe, and now you're looking for something, that's yeah, that suggests that you actually expect to find something. The usual rule with skeptics is that we don't accept something as true until provided evidence for it. It is not on us to find the evidence for somebody else's claim. That's not on us. The burden of proof is on the person making the claim, not the person being told about the claim. And if we had it the other way around, it's like, okay, you believe in Zeus, you believe in Thor, you believe in Allah, you believe in the Buddha, you believe in Krishna, you believe in Jehovah or Yahweh, whatever. Okay, you're all telling me this. Okay, I have to accept that, all of them, as true until I go out and individually disprove them. As I mentioned in a previous video, there's like 3,000-4,000 religions, and Christianity has probably well over 1,000 denominations. Nobody has time for that. It is not on us to disprove all of that. That's ridiculous. It is on them, those that claim that it is true, to show that it is true, to give us the evidence. So a skeptic searching for God is already, kind of putting me on, as serving as a red flag. And it says convincing evidence for his existence. So convincing evidence, yeah, you're trying to put a bias in our heads already. For his existence, now we're already his, capital H. I only see that in Christianity. Or at least that's the only place I've seen it so far. So that's already putting you a bias that Christianity is true. But now look at the picture in the background there. This is the cover is advertisement, plain and simple. Cover is advertisement. And so you're going to list off a few claims or suggest a few claims and then put as much bias into it to convince the person that it's true, regardless of whether or not it is. And that's what we see here. Here, the sun. That is a usual symbology for Jesus or for God in a myriad of different religions. But since we already have this clarifier over here for the Christian one, we can rest assured that that's probably for Jesus, or at least the Christian God. And in the silhouette of a microscope here, suggesting we're going to be looking really, really closely at the details, and probably in a real scientific manner. And further reinforcing that critical scientific thing, I don't know if you can actually make it out, but the background pattern here is actually computer board circuitry. Um, so we're really focused on trying to convince you that they're going to take a really, really close, scientifically evidenced look at the evidence. And then it says for Ralph Muncaster, author of the Examine the Evidence series. So examining the evidence is, yeah, it fits in the vein with this book, and I believe this book actually is part of that series. But saying that you have a series not only advertises a series, but also kind of gives you a little bit more tries to give the illusion that you have more credence as an author, that you've been writing on this stuff for a good while. Doesn't say anything to the content of what you're writing at all. That's the thing, is that all that it states is that you've written several books. Does not mean that any of your books are any good at all. Flipping around to the back side, we still have that same symbology with the background. Yeah, I can actually see more wires added in with the circuitry. And here's the same microscope looking at the sun. Again, whether that's the sunset, sunrise, who knows. So let's see what it says here. We have a quote by Lee Strobel, author of Case for Christ. Powerful and persuasive. Ralph's story will breathe new life into your faith. Okay, so now I was given this as a, convert the skeptic into convert the atheist into a theist. Make me a Christian. Now he's saying, we'll breathe new life into your faith, suggesting that this book is written for people who already have faith. Having faith is not going to work. Be prepared to be challenged and encouraged as he takes you on a fascinating and exciting search for God. The fascinating and exciting search, that worries me. Because when you're actually trying to deal with actually looking at what something says and trying to validate whether or not it's true or not, you don't want a exciting and fascinating journey. You want to pull emotions out of it. Your emotions mostly come from your limbic system, the part of your brain that's more primitive, that's the mammalian brain, the part that makes us human with the higher cognitive functions, the part that actually has allowed us to intellectually rise above the rest of the apes out there. That's the neocortex. That's where your critical thinking skills are mostly going to come into play, if not exclusively. I'm not going to pretend I'm that thoroughly knowledgeable on the structure of the brain and its functioning. But the simple fact is that when an argument is emotionally based, then you're not appealing to reality. You're just appealing to knee-jerk reactions. And that is not where we want to go, because your knee-jerk reactions can be completely off. Take, for example, what is it? Pat Robertson of the 7-7 Club. There's a whole documentary about how he puts out all the information on helping people out in Africa. And all the donations he's getting for that is supposed to help save the people from, I believe there's some plague or some other medical emergency going on over there. But some kind of illness was spreading, and he was supposedly sending medicine and doctors to go help out. Turned out that the vast majority of that money was helping him to um, set up a diamond mining operation instead. About what was it, 400, 800 miles away from where he was supposedly going to be helping out the sick people. So yeah, get an emotional reaction. People just want to throw their money at something because of an emotional reaction, but they don't want to take the time and go, okay, where is the money actually going? Is this actually worth? Is the cause that this money is actually going to worth doing? What they say the cause is versus what what it's actually going to. You're not taking your time to actually look at what's actually happening with the money that he's getting from this. And that's the problem. It's a knee-jerk reaction. It can send you in a completely wrong, different direction. I know that's probably not the best example, but it's what came to my mind most readily as I'm reading this, because I just watched that documentary about a week, 2 weeks ago. Okay, the evidence will amaze you. There's your emotional response. Will amaze you. Now here we go. 1,456 hours of Sunday school and church turned Ralph Muncaster into a hardcore atheist. Yes, I would agree that the most common way of making an atheist, I don't know what percentage of atheists it was. It's very high. I want to say 3/4 or higher, but I could be wrong. But the highest percentage count of deconversions are from people reading the Bible. Actually reading it, not just reading some of it or having a preacher read it off to them with their interpretations, which having them focus on the parts that they want and not really focus on the other parts. You'd be amazed at how many things get glossed over. You'll hear a story, you think you know it, and and then when you actually read through it again on your own, you just go, oh, I know this, and you just kind of glaze over it and move on to a spot where you're not that familiar with it. That's typically what will happen. But if you actually sit down and read those stories you think you're familiar with and really think about what it's actually saying, you'll find stuff that you probably are not, you'll be shocked at the contents. But I like how he's putting the 1,456 hours. It's a common rhetoric tool. You say something, you give a number, a non-even number, and put that in as a statistics. It makes it look like you did your homework, you did your calculations, you researched stuff, even if you pulled the number out of your ass. So it makes you look more credible than you probably are. It's a common sales tactic. And whether or not the number actually is accurate or not, I have no idea. But it is a common rhetorical tactic. Then he was challenged to honestly investigate the Bible and the facts of modern science. So, to honestly investigate. Since I've already read through the book, I have doubts on whether or not he actually honestly investigated, but I'll get into that as I get into the book. I'm not going to deal with that now. He was stunned. Fact after fact, from biology, history, archaeology, physics, lined up with the Bible's account. Well, the stunned part is another emotional plea right there, and how he's got it lined up with the Bible's account. Yeah, more emotional. So what we actually want to focus on is the fact that it says fact after fact from biology, history, archaeology, physics lined up with the Bible's account. Plain and simple. But I don't know what he means by that, because from a biological standpoint, what I know of biology, young Earth creationism has it cut out for him, because we now have genetic testing that can be done, that has been done, to show the lineage of mankind, that it shows that we've never actually progressed beyond, we never had fewer than, I think, 10,000 people in the human population. Then with history, well, I don't really know of any history outside of the biblical text itself that really verifies anything in the Bible. Sure, there's a few historical events that are in there, but as far as I know, the only the only thing we have from history about the supernatural claims in the Bible are only found in the Bible. Archaeology. Well, that's another fun one right there. It's much the same thing with the history argument. Take, for example, the story of Moses. There's, the fleeing from Egypt and wandering through the desert. A very large population of people wandering through the desert with leaving no archaeological trace at all that they ever did so. Yeah, I don't know about that. Never mind the fact that they haven't found anything outside of the biblical account amongst the peoples that they supposedly interacted with. The Egyptians, for example, who were extremely meticulous in their record keeping. Nope, not a word of the Hebrews living there, or much less fleeing en masse with plagues and and destroying Pharaoh and his armies on their way out. No, none of that in the Egyptian texts. And physics. Talking about they go with the flood. The thermal energy from that alone should have boiled the whole entire planet, from what I've heard. So yeah, I don't know what they're talking about. And even reading through the book, I still don't know what they're talking about with this. That's yeah. Let's join Ralph on the intensive personal search that took him, a cynical skeptic with an education in engineering, from disbelief to belief in God and the Jesus of the Bible. I'm just going, cynical skeptic. What the heck is a cynical skeptic? I mean, I know what skepticism is. I've explained that in my previous video. But cynical. Cynical basically means you're self-serving. A lot of people go, I don't believe in that. It's like, or I think what he's actually really getting at is instead of casting doubt on something, he's just saying flat out, no, that does not exist. I think that's what he's actually saying. It's flat out denial, not just doubt, is what I think he really means by that. But I could be wrong. Along the way, you'll encounter the same astounding evidence that the author found during his 3-year search. Well, 3 years and the astounding evidence is another emotional plea. You'll find solid information that challenges comfortable assumptions and outdated ideas. Well, considering the fact that he's not actually listing off any here, all I can say is this is also going to be another emotional plea. But saying that there's information in there, well, this is not supposed to be a nonfiction book, so there should be information in here. Your mind will be opened and your faith will be strengthened. So I addressed open-mindedness before in a previous video. And just how open is he trying to get your mind to be? I'm kind of worried about that, especially when it says, and your faith will be strengthened. Again, Journey from being a skeptic to a theist, hardcore atheist, which always bothers me because yeah, hard atheism, it has just as much of a burden of proof on it as uh, theism does. So unless you can just point out that the very definition you're using contradicts itself and therefore cannot be true, a thing cannot be A and not A at the same time. It can't, it's the laws of logic. But, or you can go with these things are real, that this thing over here disagrees with these things that are real. Therefore, either these are wrong or that's wrong. And since I have evidence for these and don't have evidence for that, I'm going to go with these. That's what you can do. Um, but yeah, it's definitely made for people who already believe, not for atheists and skeptics. It's just made to make people that believe think they can argue with atheists and skeptics and win them over. But um, fascinating, unconventional, and provocative. A skeptic's search for God will point you to the facts and to the God of the universe who is behind them. Yep. Fascinating, unconventional, provocative. There's your emotional please. Point you to the facts. Yeah, point you to facts. And then whether or not they have any relevance is another matter. And to the God of the universe who is behind them. And then there it is. It's making a claim, a conclusion already before actually giving you any evidence. So, yeah. And it starts going into the bio for the author. Ralph Muncaster, former skeptic of the Bible. We'll see. Is the founder of Strong Basis to Believe, a ministry started at Saddleback Church that helps people with belief struggles. So this is his job, and he makes money off of this. He has monetary motivation to keep people believing. He is a frequent lecturer at colleges, churches, and organizations, and is an adjunct professor at Vanguard University in the areas of business, communication, and religion. As far as I know, his only education is in engineering. Little spoiler, he states in here that he quickly got into the business of being in advertising, became the president of his own company in advertising, and then went on and flat out stated he was obsessed with money and physical possessions and whatnot. And then later on got converted to Christianity through the tales in this book. But here he is trying to make money off of it. I don't think his personality ever changed. I just think he learned that it's much more effective to apply the advertising techniques he had to people of faith, because faith tends to make people turn a blind eye to things that actually matter just because they has a label that they identify with attached to it. He has authored numerous books in the Examine the Evidence series. Okay, so here's all the listing of his books. Why Are Scientists Turning to God, which I know that percentage is like less than 1%. Creation versus Evolution. How do we know Jesus is God? Can you trust the Bible? And why does God allow suffering? All good questions, but all of that really is dependent upon, is there even a God in the first place? Because then you're just going, okay. Hello everyone, Future Phoenix here. I'm sorry to stop things right there for the time being, but I realized I had a half hour left to try to rush through the quotes at the beginning of the book and the table of contents, and it ended up going horribly with me trying to rush through it. So I'll go ahead and save that for another video. But trust me, some things, uh, yeah, it's better that I have devote more time to actually explaining my thoughts on that. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed. I'll see you next time.